The referendum is one of the four elements of direct democracy. It allows a direct participation without representational transmission mechanisms. In the case of the Brexit, the citizens decide directly on the EU membership and avoid the legislative process with elected intermediaries like the members of the British Parliament. I have to say that the vote by referendum on the Brexit is a good thing. First of all, because in the United Kingdom it is only the second referendum in 41 years. The voters are only consulted for the choice of the representatives at the time of elections. For once, we can listen to the little people, the popular classes, and the forgotten of the system. They have the possibility to express themselves and feel finally that for once, they have some power over the political decision of their country and more of the EU. Critics of the use of the referendum argue that the ordinary citizens are not able to vote on a political decision, and perhaps more in the case of an issue about the EU. But why must they undergo without the right to decide for themselves? Here, it's important to underline that the Brexit is a main question which concerns all citizens of the UK, and we cannot exclude some categories under the subjective pretext of ignorance. And in the case of a question about the EU, it's very important to counterbalance the democratic deficit of the EU institutions, and to reinforce the right of the people to decide for themselves. I will add that the UK about the European issue has always been skeptical or in any case mistrustful. This vote expresses only what the British have always thought about the EU, and maybe more in the current European context. That's why we cannot consider that the result is a revolution or just the lack of sense of responsibility of the voters. Indeed, when it comes to their private interests, the individuals are able to say if it is good or not for their current situation. It is more the result of a long process in which the British wanted to privilege their interests, and maybe also the sense of the British identity, because these points may appear impacted by the EU membership. A second main argument to sustain the use of this referendum concerns the result of the vote on the Brexit, which can be seen as a vote against the leadership by the elite. Indeed, the great majority of the traditional parties and members of the British Parliament, including a large proportion of the Conservative Party of David Cameron, were for the Remain vote. But the majority of the voters voted to leave the EU. It was the first time that a UK-wide referendum result had gone against the preferred choice of the government, who had officially recommended a Remain vote. The people expressed their preferred choice completely opposite to that of the political representatives. It can be a good example of the lack of knowledge by the political elites about the will and the preferences of the majority of the citizens. In this sense, the referendum about the Brexit is useful and a good thing for the functioning of the democracy to restore the power of the people.